Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming your host tonight, Rabbi Gary Bazak. Hi, Kivi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I wonder if the people out there can hear us. Can everybody out there hear us? Still no signs. I'm getting a message. Yes, I think people out there can hear us. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, Rybak Bazak, maybe apologies for all the delays out there. Rybak Bazak, we'll try to bring you back in. Let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me yet?
Roger that.
Oh, welcome. Okay, let me do my introduction one more time, please. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you, yeah.
Great. Okay, fine. So first of all, welcome to everyone who's watching. We're sorry about the delay there. We're sorry about the slight technical issues.
No, Rybak Bazak, I don't think anybody but the two of us can hear you, I'm afraid.
Oh, dear. This is fascinating.
Right.
Yes, they can hear Rybak Bazak. Sorry,
Oh, they can hear me. I'm really pleased.
You're on.
Do you know, in life, when people can't hear you, you feel you're not communicating right. That's, I think, mainly the point here. Maybe I'm not giving the right messages across. Okay, because everyone can hear everyone else, but they can't hear me. So if I shout a little louder, maybe it will work.
I almost had the shock of my life because I thought I was going to have to stand in for you, Rybak Bazak.
Yeah, that would be. I would have been pleased with that, to be honest, Rabbi Edwards. You're excellent.
Apologies, everybody, for the slight technical difficulties, but we seem to be back on track. So, welcome, everybody.
Okay, welcome, Kivi. I'm just going to give the introduction one more time. Okay, so we've got a fantastic program this evening. We're going to be dealing with the issue of work-life balance and the issues of balancing values with the workplace, which is an incredibly important topic at the moment. We've obviously had our world turned literally upside down. Whatever area of business or workplace that you are in, be it rabbinics, be it business, be it law, be it schools, everything's turned on its head. Our work-life balance has changed. The question is, now that we're coming out of it, do we want it to go back to the same? Do we want it to be different? What are ways in which we can improve it, etc.? So we've got two fantastic, literally world-class speakers with us tonight. The first of which you can see next to me, Kivi Bernhard. So Kivi is literally a world-renowned motivational speaker. He's a business entrepreneur. He's written a book called Leopardology, which we'll talk about in a little minute. And he is absolutely, I must say, I started looking at some of his talks over the last couple of days and began to get a little bit intimidated to interview him. I must say, I'll admit that he is one of the best speakers that I've ever heard, one of the most insightful speakers that I've ever heard. So I'm really, really privileged that he's given us his time and hopefully share some insights with us. Kivi, can I welcome you?
My honor and privilege to be here, Rabbi. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
No problem at all. So Kivi, I understand just by looking at a little bit of your background that when you came from South Africa to America, you didn't come with very much.
That is true.
What did you come to America with from South Africa? Just to give a bit of a background about yourself and your career development.
Right. So, when I left South Africa for the United States, you could not actually move foreign funds. There were foreign fund restrictions in place that prevented Forex moving. And I got an allocation. I was, I had 4 kids and my wife, myself, and I moved with 13 pieces of luggage and $860.22 to the United States of America.
$866.
No, $860.22.
$860.22. So you even lost the 6.
Right.
Unbelievable. You even lost the 6. You maybe should have sold your luggage. But then you wouldn't have had clothes. And then what happened? You got to the States, and what did you do?
Right. So my career study was actually in international trade as a raw materials trader for a multinational. But I had transitioned prior to that into the diamond business, actually via that. And I landed up kind of, when we came to the States, I set up, shop as a high-end, gem quality, diamond wholesaler to fine, retail jewelers in the United States. And there was just one small tiny problem. And that is that somehow they had managed to build a $19 billion diamond industry in the United States without me. And I couldn't fathom how that was possible in any way, shape, or form. And it was literally an impossibility. I mean, trying to get in there was tougher than placing a toothpick in it. And the journey of lepidology is really, my personal journey of finding that space, that crevice, finding the mental stamina to really dig deep and find the courage to identify core primordial drivers within me that would just kind of take me to a place of consistency, efficacy, and efficiency, and to do so, day in and day out on a regular basis. I had mouths to feed, and basically what happened was, my dad and I shared a passion for the African bush, and we had a love for the African bush, and I had a particular affinity for the African leopard, which is the most successful feline hunter on earth. And I began to really dissect and unfold the hunt of the leopard and how it does what it does in such tremendous adverse conditions, where you're dealing with a very complicated, fluxing, moving marketplace that is highly competitive, and where there are massive machines of operation like Lion Pride that want to dominate a market territory. And here you have a single solo solitary operator that has this incredible efficacy and just is able to kind of do what it needs to do on a consistent basis. And lepidology became the analytic study of, the dissection of a leopard hunt and what is inherent in a leopard hunt that makes it so effective and efficient. And so, the passion and the book was kind of born years later.
Unbelievable. So the diamond company you built, just to give everyone a bit of background, did become rather successful. I'm not going to let you kind of sell your own diamond company, but it's online. It's referred to as a multi-million-pound diamond company. So Baruch Hashem, it was extremely successful.
Hashem decided that it should have relative success, and provided for us and our family, and allowed us to be participants in the community. And we were very fortunate about 5-6 years ago to a competitor.
Amazing. Now, so and after that, obviously, this book was born, Lepidology, and which I've ordered a copy. I haven't read it yet though, because I've only just ordered it. But it looks absolutely fascinating, like you were describing. So it was basically a description of your business journey and drawing from your passion of leopards, and understanding the bush and understanding the nature of the dynamics in the bush in terms of those who are hunted and those who are hunters, and understanding how the leopard captures its prey and using that as a model essentially for business, which is remarkable. It's remarkable to be able to do that. How did it come to you? It came to you whilst you did it before you were working out how to set up your business?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this was early on. I mean, 2 years into when, having landed in the country. And I just kept on playing back the hunt of that incredible leopard that I'd had the privilege to see several times in the bush. And, these metaphors of, efficiency from the bush to the boardroom just kind of began to cycle and play. And basically what happened was I developed these 6 pillars of what, I just called them proficiencies, but, there's...
Can I say what they are? They're positive, predatory thinking, right?
The MBA schools, there's 2 MBA schools that use it as actually as coursework, and they call it positive predatory thinking. But that's actually essentially precisely what it is. Like everything in life, there is always a double edge to things, including predatory behavior. There's a certain energy, there's a certain focus, there's a certain result-centric focus that refuses to accept process and only matches to result that is within predatory behavior. If you can actually harness that and capture that and sort of just entirely focus in on result, it takes you to a whole space and place. And there are these 6 pillars that kind of are inherent within every hunt of the leopard that I kind of then used as a metaphor and just parlayed over from the bush to the boardroom. And Hashem decided that it should have a lot of resonance in C-suite, corporate spaces all over the world.
Unbelievable. So I'd like to ask you a question, if I may, which is the following. So now, I know one of the principles is that the leopard understands its market. It always understands its market, and it always responds to changes in the market and looking at the market that is as opposed to the market that it wants. That's how I understood one of the principles. Now, so we've had a very interesting situation recently, which is that the vast majority of the world has been working from home.
Right.
Which has meant, certainly there has been some leopard-like behavior, more in terms of roaring and things like that, between the kids, between the adults, between everything going on. It's been quite a stressful environment, obviously. So the marketplace changed, and now it's changing again in terms of what's going on in life. So I'd like to think about this in 3 different areas in terms of the change from kind of before COVID to after COVID, and that process of during. So that the world has changed a little bit. So I'd like to think about it on 3 levels, if you can. How do you think, what's the message that I need to take out of the events that's going on? How am I reading the quote unquote marketplace? I know it's not a marketplace when it comes to family, but bear with me. So the marketplace in terms of business. So what I mean by that is, how do you think a person, I'm trying to get some free business advice here, basically. How should a person who's obviously in a challenging situation, about to come across a recession, what should his focus be at the moment? Number 1, as a business person. Number 2, as a family man. I know you're a strong family man. So how should he see the changing situation now? What he should focus on in terms of that? And thirdly, as a Jew, what's the message we can take out of this as a Jew?
Right. So I'm going to open up answering those 3 questions with the following premise. I don't have answers. I can only share with you my perception, what I'm seeing, what I'm digesting, what I'm percolating, and how I'm processing it through my own sort of interpretation of what's unfolding out there. If we've learned anything, it's that we know absolutely nothing. And the operating premise really now steps us into a module that God actually really does run the world. And we seriously have no idea. You used to be an MIT, Harvard modeler, forecaster. You know absolutely nothing. And by the way, this has been proven out in both, the economic, sort of condition of the shutdown, as well as the actual biological and scientific criteria pertaining to the virus itself. No one has a clue about anything. My perception is that actually in that lies the beauty and the seed of the opportunity ahead of us. This is a hard reset to take us away from a place of peripheral consumption to a place of core intrinsic choosing of value, rather than just operating in a place of consumption where we were in yesteryear's economy. So to be strategic about answering your questions, let me give you the first, sort of insight that I personally just, operate with in the current situation. There's a fundamental principle of leopardology, and that is, you alluded to it before, and this is a premise of Treasury pillar number 3, actually. Hunt the market you're given, not the one you want. So, it's a very interesting phenomenon, by the way. These huge corporate line prides, 9, 13, 18, 27, massive organizational lines in a pride that have the power of the pride. They're extremely skittish. As soon as river systems dry up, as soon as there's a little bit of drought coming in, as soon as food conditions shift and change, they have immediate knee-jerk reaction and they move on. And now they're faced with a whole, sort of program of having to establish new market territory and kind of hunker in to market condition that they're somewhat unfamiliar with, that they are not fully prepared for in terms of competitor, presence in the market space. And there's a whole complexity, and very often, by the way, and you find this with lion, cheetah, and hyena, the single biggest competitors of leopard. Leopard have a paradigm shift relationship with this. They hunt the market they're given, not the one they want. There's a firm relationship with the knowledge and the sort of the keen opportunity that has been gained by studying market territory, investing in the nooks and the crevices of knowledge of your market space. And they have kind of a very vertical relationship with instead of deep. This is the first thing I would just take off the page. Do not fall into the trap of consumption, of ideas, of information, of videos, of WhatsApps, of social media, of broadcasts that are coming at us at T-light speed, communicating what it is we need to be consuming. Step back from them. Understand that this too shall pass, in the infamous words of King Solomon. Gam ze yavo, it'll pass. There is a timeline that transcends all of us, that is being managed in a space that is not subject to time. Don't be so quick to just kind of have a knee-jerk reaction. Don't just close your business. Don't just kind of open a new business. Don't just shift into PPE product now because that's what everyone is selling, because all other Amazon product has dried up. Just step back, think, understand. You've developed strong vendor relationships. You have distribution channels. You've got infrastructure that supports your current organization. Before you kind of just shift out, really kind of dig deep and go deep and see what opportunities are in fact in front of you. Because if you have the courage to hunt the market you're given, not the one you want, you're going to find opportunity on the other side that has literally left everyone behind. And there's a beautiful, beautiful space in that on the flip side. So this is the first thing I would share with you. The other thing is this. This is a more sort of perhaps esoteric, a little bit philosophical purview of what we're dealing with over here. We have been told to shelter at home is really what has happened, right? And although it's very interesting, we weren't told to shelter in our house. We were told to shelter at home. We lived in a world where we had the two confused, totally. We were out there as business operators, as entrepreneurs, as leaders in the world, operating. We were flying up and down internationally like it's literally like going down to the store. We were totally comfortable in the world as if it were our home. And we made it our home. We had, we had travel points, we had hotel points, we had car rental points. We were just absolutely smooth. We had things down pat. It wasn't even a computation. We'd jump on a plane, on a transport mechanism, and we're there and we're here. We have Wi-Fi all over the world. We're connected. We're totally able and functioning and proficient. We had no idea what was going on at home. We had really no idea about our kids. Homework, schoolwork, lives, social structures. What actually are they listening to? What are they watching? What are they seeing? What actually is happening at home? Where is the core value? Here's what happened. Our house, the world out there, was really our value system. Our home was really a transactional space that served us for sleep and food provision, a little bit of familial social contact. A hard set was desperately needed to reverse this, because this is a fundamental breakdown of core human value. It is literally a broken mechanism in how the human being is operating. So God literally reset that. And he took us into our homes where we would now have a whole new revisitation of core value. What is valuable? And this is exactly what is happening with all of us. We are discovering relationships with our spouses, with our children, with extended family, with the physical construct of our own homes. We're finding places and spaces in our homes that we actually never really knew existed. We had them totally for granted. There's a little nook upstairs that's a great place to get excellent Wi-Fi when you need to go on a conference call, It happens you're sitting there, and this is actually a great spot. And then while you're sitting there, you're actually gazing at a picture of your great-grandfather that you unpacked in a box that you left up there that you haven't looked at for 30 years. And now your great-grandfather and who he was and your family, and now you're digging. You see, this whole cascading effect is about rediscovering value. You're watching your kid make pancakes. You, first of all, never knew that they had a talent to make gourmet pancakes. And second of all, that they were so absolutely bloody delicious. And now you're connecting in a space that you just would not have. Now that becomes a value. Now you're computing, hang on a second. You mean I've missed so many Sunday pancakes because I've been out traveling? And so the whole value system for which you live has shifted. This actually trickles down into your commercial activity. You are now starting to revisit with what it is you want to allocate your time to, because that translates into value acquisition. And so this takes me to the third element of your question regarding the Jew. And by the way, this thing, just by the way, to leave it in the commercial space, will become a definition of future business going forward. Value-based proposition. People are going to want to be busy with value-based vocation, and they're going to want to be busy with value-based entrepreneurial pursuit. The idea of simply selling a product for absolute consumption is going to lose favor. People are going to want to attach to a primordial value. Sell me a service that services value, that comes from your value and that touches mine. And that's going to be, by the way, you're going to see companies, corporations are going to be rolling out value proposition. The millennials have been trying to drive this for a long time.
What do you mean by a value proposition? What do you mean by a value-based proposition? My value. Explain a little bit more for us.
You are buying my product not just because it's a transaction, because I'm selling it as a willing seller and you're buying it as a willing buyer. There's going to be a whole attachment of something more to that. This is going to facilitate you being able to stay and work at home more effectively. This is going to facilitate you and your wife having good recreational and private time together to regroup as a husband and wife. This is going to facilitate interaction with your business team, even though you can't physically get together in the office as much as you'd like to. There's going to be a whole rollout of this. You're going to see the next edition of cell phones, iPhone, Android systems are going to have all sorts of interface for social distancing, for private time, with sort of instantaneous group private time, etc. Things that facilitate new market condition that reflect my value. This is going to be a thing, and businesses kind of need to start thinking about that and adjusting to that. We tried it with Save the Whale, Hug the Tree, Green, this, that, and the other, but they got intertwined with political and sort of commercial hijacking. This is now really about the human condition that everyone has now experienced. And so it's going to take on a different level. It's no longer a cause. It's actually something that we know as a producer, vendor, manufacturer, that you are searching and seeking and have touched in the last 3 months. And as a Jew, by the way, we are now, and please forgive me, I don't want to be biased and I don't want to offend any non-Jews perhaps listening or on here. What I am saying to you is that we were designed for this by divine design, and we are actually selected for this by the creator of the universe. We are responsible for finding and touching core primordial value in the world and upholding it and articulating that this is not a construct of man, this is a dominion of God. And to the extent, by the way, that we take one day a week and we allocate that day to do nothing else but articulate value of God's existence in the world. We engage the world in all its materialism, but on Shabbat, we do that with a specific purview that this is about God. You see this delicious, incredible, delicate scotch that I'm drinking right now? I've kept it for Shabbos because on Shabbos, I want to honor the Shabbos by saying this is not made by some 5th, 6th generation Irishman who has an incredible, brewing facility. This is actually something that comes from Hashem. We are the people selected to actually touch core value and bring it back to the realm of God. So this is a very natural thing for us, by the way. And in a certain sense, our time has really come in a modern world.
Thank you. So I'm a little bit blown away by this concept and how it came through as one principle which has gone through all these 3 questions. We've rapidly run out of time. So if I can ask one more favor, 2 more favors from you, Kivi. 2 more. One is, will you come back and join us again at one point? Because I think we need more time with you to really engage in this absolutely phenomenally novel perspective of how to look at the relationship between business and the relationship between the business world and the value system that you have, and how they're going to interact together, and how that's going to play forward in terms of the future. I think if I can take one point of what you're saying, there was a key message there, which is when you're going to go back to work into your business life, realize that it's now going to be built of those values that you learnt of being when you were at home, and try and model your business after that value system and after those values. There's one more thing I want to ask you, which is, can you share with us the amazing story of when you were asked to speak at the Microsoft conference? I think you were asked to be a keynote speaker. You'll tell us if you don't mind sharing it with us.
I mean, Rabbi, I can do so with pleasure, but there's a video that was made that does a far better job than I could do.
Really?
And yes, by Rabbi Yoel Gold, and it's a very highly well produced video, and it's out there. But I can just refer you guys to that.
Amazing.
But, yeah, but
if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about the story, and we'll put the video. Rabbi Edwards, could you put the video in the link?
Yeah, Rabbi Yoel Gold, you'll find it. Microsoft. The bottom line is that actually it really spills into what we were touching on before about core value.
Yeah.
You see, there's primordial value, and then there's secondary value. Primordial value is worth dying and losing a job over. Secondary is not. You prefer vanilla over chocolate ice cream. Eat the chocolate, you won't die. But certain things are things for which we absolutely live and die, because they are non-negotiable values in our lives. So, I had the particular merit to be, born in a home where Shabbat was observed. And what happened was that a very high-end corporate speaker bureau had called me up for a massive engagement with Microsoft. And Mr. Bill Gates himself was actually due to be at this engagement. Before I had even checked the dates, I was so kind of, excited about the opportunity. And it was early in my speaking career as well. It was well beyond my caliber from where I was at that time. But, just with Jewish chutzpah, I said, sure, absolutely, I'm in. And about 10 minutes later, I happened to go check the date, and it turns out the date was actually on a Shabbos. And I had no choice, of course, but to call back the corporate speaker bureau, a lady by the name of Nancy Rybak, who's literally the queen of the corporate speaking industry in America. And I said, Nancy, I know I just committed to this 10 minutes ago, but I must tell you, I cannot. It's the Sabbath, and I'm Sabbath observant. Friday night to Saturday night, and I'm out. She said, there's no way you can do that. We've actually just confirmed with Microsoft, and Mr. Gates himself is going to be there. We're in. Go speak to your rabbi, see what you can do. I said, it's actually not a rabbi problem. It's a God issue, and I'm in a personal relationship with the creator of the universe, and it's not negotiable. So I have to tell you, I can't be there. She kind of got a sense that I was serious about this, and her whole demeanor changed, and the whole situation got really significant. She just saw her whole sort of reputation with Microsoft was about to shift. And, there was that. So, basically what happened was About a day later, I get a call from a senior vice president of Mr. John Ficoni of Microsoft. And he gets on the phone, you know, he didn't greet me. He just said, Bernhard. I said, yes, sir. He said, hi, my name's John Ficoni, senior vice president of Microsoft. How much money do you need to be there? I said, excuse me, how much money do I need to be where? And he said, I'll send you a check, you fill it in. Help yourself, whatever you want in there. Just be there, do it. I said, it's actually not about money. It's about the fact that it's the Sabbath and I'm just unavailable for that. I can help you on Friday morning and I can help you Sunday. I just cannot help you on the Saturday morning platform. He actually slammed the phone down and I just saw my entire speaking career absolutely going out the window. This was devastating. I just saw the whole thing kind of like, you know, whatever. And it was a very significant, you know, platform and fee, to be quite honest with you. And, you know, Nancy Lauterbach phones me back, another vice president at 5-Star Speaker Bureau, calls me, I'm killing them, I'm destroying their reputation, this, that, the other. I just said it's non-negotiable. She called me back about a week later, actually about 4 days later. She says, Kivi, you won't believe what's happened. Microsoft, and this was, by the way, planned a year and a half out from the date of the conference. They're going to move the conference to the Sunday to accommodate you for the Sabbath. I said, fantastic, I'm in for triple the price. But the point of the matter is, of course, you know, we did it, and Baruch Hashem, it was great, and thank God it was blessed by Hashem, and everything was fantastic. I met Mr. Ficoni, actually still to this day, we keep up a good relationship. About 6 months after that, he called me, and he told me a fascinating thing. He said to me, he said, you know, I was actually just coming back from London on a private jet with Mr. Gates and about 6 or 7 other Microsoft executives. And we were talking about this. It turned out actually that Mr. Gates never came to the event and I never met him because it was shifted to the Sunday and it no longer worked for his schedule in his calendar. And so he wasn't able to attend. And he said, so Mr. Gates was saying to me, he said, you know, what happened with that event? It was supposed to be on the Saturday. Like, what was the deal? So John said, you know, the thing is we tried, but this guy is Sabbath observant and he just couldn't work on the Saturday. You know, we tried throwing money on it and at it and doing what we needed to do, and he didn't budge. And it was a crazy thing. So we moved it to the Sunday. And he says to me that Mr. Gates turned to him and said, I wonder what it must feel like to have something money cannot buy. Wow. And that is the story of every single Jew, right? We have a core value that money cannot buy. A gift that was given to us by Hashem, the Holy, Holy Shabbos, which is really the announcement that I live for a transcendent value. And this is our heritage, each and every single one of us. That's the story in a nutshell.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been absolutely incredible having you on the show. A real privilege, a real honor. I've learned a lot. I've gained a lot. Thank you so much. I hope everything goes well with the rest of everything that you're doing. Miami Beach goes well. And please God, we'll speak again soon.
Look forward. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much. So our next speaker, and I'm going to bring him on straight away because we're again privileged to have him. Do we have Harry here? Is Harry here? So Harry Rothenberg is a personal injury lawyer, a very successful personal injury lawyer. And I know it's holiday time there, and you're doing us a real favor. A real favor. We really appreciate you joining us. I'm sorry for the slight delay in the program. We had a bit of a sound issue at the beginning. So Harry, how are you?
I'm doing very well, and you don't have to apologize because I joined a few minutes early, so I got to hear that fantastic story that I really enjoyed from Rabbi Bernhard. Fantastic.
Amazing. Do you know Kivi?
We have met before, yes.
Amazing.
Briefly.
Amazing. You're both world-renowned speakers, to be honest. So, Harry, if I can, I'm going to start with something that is close to my heart. I don't know if you know Rowan Atkinson.
Who?
Rowan Atkinson is a British comedian.
Yeah, I know the name. I don't
yeah.
know.
So he's a British comedian, and one of the sketches that he does, and this is a segue into a question, don't worry. One of the sketches that he does is he comes onto the stage dressed as a devil. He dressed as the devil, and he cut with a flip chart, and he's basically saying "Welcome to hell," and he's telling the different people he's going to split them up into different groups and send them into different directions. And one of the things he says at the end is he actually sends various. He's actually at the end he says the Christians, can you go over here? And as he sees them walking past, he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, the Jews were right." He's not a Jewish person, obviously, but that's the finishing line of the sketch. But what's relevant for our purposes is that at one point at the beginning he says, "And if I could have all the thieves, and if the looters and the pillagers could go there, and if the lawyers, if you could join them as well, then that would be great." So what I'm segueing into is the following: that obviously being a successful lawyer, you must have had occasions in your career, and you must still have occasions in your career where you've had to, if you like, sacrifice, or you've been offered the chance to sacrifice personal integrity, religious integrity, be it Shabbos observance, be it morality. Could you share an anecdote, a story of just how you dealt with it and what your kind of mindset was going into that?
So it's never ending. The only question really is what day of the week is it going to be and how much money is going to be involved. Some of your listeners may have heard one story that I tell often, so I'll tell a different one that I don't tell as often. We had a case that my brother was handling involving someone who was profoundly brain damaged, along with many other injuries, as a result of a fall at a construction site. And my brother and my firm had dug in our heels that we would not accept less than $12 million as a settlement. Our fee, by the way, is 1/3. So a $12 million settlement is a $4 million fee. I don't usually lead with the fee, but it's important to understand the story. They had dug in their heels at $9 million and they would not budge. And we were heading to trial. And then finally, the judge called another settlement conference, and they said to my brother the following: here's what we're willing to do. Instead of adding another $3 million to hit the 12 to settle the case, we'll add the $3 million as a fund so that when your client needs future treatment, he can draw down from that fund. And so it's available for him. So we won't have to pay it out on day one, but we'll just pay it out over time. Now, why did they make this offer? A, because then they could hold on to the $3 million and pay it out over time. And B, if the client dies or doesn't use it up, they get to keep the difference. Now, they knew they were right. We disagreed, but I think that they were right in the end. They felt that it was a very strong probability that our client, who was from Guatemala, would go back to his home country after the settlement, because at those types of numbers, even though he needed care and the care is better here, with that much money, he'd be able to get whatever care he needed, even if he needed to fly people in. Yeah. And his wife was there, his child was there. And we said, you can say that all you want, but you can't tell it to a jury at trial. He got injured here, and he's entitled to get paid for medical bills in US dollars, not in Guatemalan dollars. So this is a non-starter. They said, wait 1 second, but realize something. The way we're going to do this is that we're going to set up the fund of $3 million, but you're going to be able to take your fee from that. You could take your 1/3. So you'll still get $1 million from there, plus your $3 million from the $9 million. You will have your full $4 million fee off the 12, and your client will have his 6 out of 9. He gets his 2/3, plus an additional $2 million worth of medical bills. So my brother comes to see me, and he says, did you ever hear such a thing before? I said, I've never heard of this particular idea, but I'm familiar with the general concept. It's called fraud. He said, I know, it just sounded ridiculous, but how could they even propose it? I said, I don't know how they can propose it other than that they're willing to engage in fraud. And the reason it's a fraud is that black letter law for us is that we can't take our fee unless a client has earned the money. So if they were willing to write a check for $3 million and it would go into some kind of trust for the client's use, then yes, we could take our $1 million fee from that. But we can't take $1 million off of $3 million that may never get spent. Suppose our client dies in his sleep the next day. You're not allowed to do it. So I said to my brother, go back to them and say, we don't participate in a fraud. He calls them up. He tells them that. He said, no, what fraud? God forbid. Ethical lawyers like us. We did this on a similar case. Not as big. It was a $6 million case, and we were at 4.5. And the last $1.5 million, we did this. The lawyer took his $500,000 worth of fee from that. So my brother comes back to me. I said, get the name of the lawyer. So he goes back to them, gets the name of the lawyer. I said, let's call the lawyer. He calls the lawyer, introduces himself, explains that he has this case, that they've made this offer. It sounded very strange to him, but they said that he did it. We're just wondering, can he show us what he relied on? Because as far as we're concerned, you can't do it. And the lawyer said, I can't talk to you about that, and hung up the phone. So this was an attempted bribe, an attempt to get us, look, from our perspective, hey, we get our full fee. Who's going to know? Is the client going to tell on us? No. Are they going to tell on us? Of course not, because if they tell on us, they're accessories. We committed the fraud together. We broke the disciplinary rules. And so tempting, yes, but as the prior speaker just said, there are certain things for which it doesn't matter what the amount of money is. And I have other examples where there were even more significant amounts of money involved. But if you're asking us to do something that's unlawful, the numbers just don't make a difference. The only difference is that the temptation is greater. Obviously, to stand down a bribe of $1 million or $3 million, or I have a case going on now that it could be $10 million if we do something that's unethical. Sure, the temptation is greater, but at the end of the day, the answer has to be no, because it's not, to use that same analogy, this isn't chocolate versus vanilla, and I'll deal with the chocolate. This is legal versus illegal, and it's not a gray area. These aren't things where, some people say you could, some people disagree. These are things where you absolutely can't do it. So I don't want to be in that comedians, group. I don't want to be.
You don't want to be one of the lawyers with the thieves and the pillagers.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, quite right. And that's why you're on the show. You're amazing in terms of that.
Like we all.
If I can ask you another question, which is slightly veering off track into a slightly different area, which is the following, and I think the topic that we've been dealing with a lot today is work-life balance, and I think I can imagine I don't know if you're at the pinnacle of the law industry, but you certainly are a partner in a law firm. You've done well in the law firm, so I can imagine that didn't come from working 9 till 3:30. And then going home, playing with your kids a little bit, having a little bit of a read. I'm assuming that's not how it works. I mean, I know lawyers in England are working stupid hours. I mean, where there's sleeping bags involved, there's all types of things going on. So could you give us a principle of how you've managed to balance this to the degree that you have from your experience, and some advice to those who are trying to get to the top of the trade, who are trying to get to the top of the ladder? How should they balance this? How should they go about balancing this?
So the best way that I can is through I don't know, I can't see you anymore. I only see myself. Are we still okay?
Yeah.
You're still there?
Can you see me now? Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't lose the.
Yeah. That feed.
I'm in a vacation rental for a couple of weeks, so it's not. So I'm relying on the Wi-Fi of my host.
Yeah.
So just as something thematic that people can keep in mind, I always like to point out that we do a lot of dancing in circles. We dance the hora. You go to a wedding, we dance in circles, and go to all sorts of different festivities. Sometimes it could be a siyum, it could be all sorts of different events, and depending on where it's set up and what crowd. Often it's the men dancing in circles with the men, and women dancing in circles with the women. But we dance in circles, and for me that's very, very important. And I think the reason is there are many reasons why we dance in circles. It's equidistant. Everybody's the same distance from the center. We remember that God's in the center and we're all an equal distance away. But I think there's another very beautiful lesson to be learned from that, which is as follows. When you're dancing in that circle, you reach out your forward hand and you grab onto the person in front of you and they pull you along. And so that is a metaphor for the fact that you must have somebody in your life who inspires you. All of us have to have somebody in life who inspires us. And we do. It's got to be somebody we can relate to. It can be in person. That's certainly better. It can be online. Somebody from who we have regular interaction with them and we can learn from them and they inspire us. Or it could be multiple people. You could have someone who inspires you with respect to charitable giving. Somebody else who inspires you with respect to studying Jewish texts. Someone else who inspires you with respect to their interpersonal dealings with other people. But everybody's got somebody who's higher up on the totem pole. And what I love to describe this is that there's a medrash that says that when Moses was up on the mountain, Moshe was a scribe. God was telling him exactly which letters to write in the Torah, and God was telling him how to fashion each letter. So on the letters, there are these little, I don't know what to call them, squiggles, I would say in English. They're called tagin is what they're called. So they're little flourishes at the top and at the bottom of certain letters. And Moshe, per the medrash, says to God, what are these little flourishes? What's this extra ink? And God said, don't worry, someday a fellow named Akiva, Rabbi Akiva, the great sage from the Talmud, is going to learn many, many laws from these flourishes. So Moshe said, I want to see it. So God said, I'm going to paraphrase something along the lines of, let's go to the videotape, and showed him a video of Rabbi Akiva's class. in Rabbi Akiva's class, which was unbelievable, he's learning the halachas, the laws from these little flourishes. Everyone was seated according to their level of erudition. So the top students were in the first row, the next best students were in the second row, third, fourth, etc. The measure says, hang on to your hats, Moshe was sitting in the 8th row. Okay, that should tell you. So if Moses himself had somebody from whom he could study and whom he could learn and who could inspire him, then everybody here, I don't want to hear from somebody, there's just nobody who can inspire me. Everybody's got somebody who can inspire them. Simultaneously, while you're in the circle, you're reaching out your other hand and you are yanking someone else along. The guy behind you, now you're the person who's in front of him. You need somebody that you are regularly inspiring, somebody that you're teaching. Could be different areas. And the reason is, particularly with respect to Jewish study, is that if every time you study, you're always a student rather than a teacher, you can fake it. The person teaching you could say, you got that? And you say, yep, I got it. I mean, you're completely daydreaming and you really didn't get it. But if you're teaching, if in the middle of this class I say, oh, wait, what was I talking about? I'm not going to be that effective a teacher, right? So you really got to know your material. It forces you to know the material. And the person you're teaching could be a friend, could be a parent, could be a sibling, could be some other relative, a colleague. You have to find somebody. So I think that's like just a nice metaphor. Have somebody that inspires you, or more than one person, and have somebody whom you inspire. Practically speaking, what I always recommend is that you have to schedule it. It's got to be in your calendar. If you're just going to say, we're gonna get together, we're gonna study, it's never going to happen. So I have regular study sessions that are in my calendar, and they are inviolate. Now, of course, if there's a family medical emergency, yes, something like that. But even then, I've lost track. My mother, unfortunately, over the course of the last several years, has had quite a few surgeries, and I have had quite a few nights. I have 7 younger siblings, so we make a rotation. Somebody's there in the morning, somebody covers the middle of the day, somebody covers the evening, somebody stays overnight. And I've had many nights where I'm in the hospital and I'll just do my study session. My mother has listened in quite a few times on them. Usually we'll change the topic because it's she's not always interested in whatever page in the Talmud that I'm in. But I study at night 3 nights a week with a rabbi in Israel. We study at 10:05 p.m. That's my time, which means for him in Israel it's 5:05 a.m., which means he's gotten up at about 4:45 in the morning. And I'm not missing that. I can't blow that off and not be there when the guy awakened that early. And I have similar sessions in the morning. They have to be scheduled. They have to be in your calendar. And the last thing, I apologize if this is a long-winded answer, but the last thing I would point out is happens to be from this week's Torah portion. So I'm going to read it to you. There's a pasuk that says that Zos HaTorah, this is the Torah, this is the teaching. Adam ki yamos ba'ohel, if a person dies in his tent, Kol haba el ha'ohel, anybody who comes to the tent, Chol asher bi'ohel, and everybody who's in the tent, Yitameh shivas yamim, will be impure. Best translation, it's not that accurate, but will be tameh for 7 days. The Chavetz Chaim says that's a little strange. What do you mean, Zos HaTorah? This is the Torah? There are all sorts of laws in the Torah. Why all of a sudden is this the Torah that when a man dies in his tent? So he says that this is the way you acquire Torah. When you're studying, it's Adam ki yamos ba'ohel. You're dead. By analogy, somebody comes to the door. It's a friend. Hi, is Ruvain there? The wife answers. She says, I'm so sorry. My husband's dead. Come back in 2 hours. I'm sorry. What? Yeah, I said, my husband's dead. Come back in 2 hours, right? Because if the person's dead, you can't see them. So that's what it's got to be like. When you're studying, you're dead. That phone is off. And I ask this to people all the time. It's very cute. I'll say to people, who runs your life? Be honest with me. Come on, I'm not recording this. Who runs your life? And I get great answers. Some people say my wife, my husband. Some people say my kids. Some people say my father, my mother. The very religious people in the audience say God. Some people say my boss. Some people say the stock market. Whatever it is, okay? And I say, you know what? Give me a break, okay? We know who runs your life. Your phone runs your life. Phone rings, it buzzes. Is it a WhatsApp? Is it a tweet? Is it Slack? Is it an email? What's going on, my little baby? It's like a mother of a newborn waking up in the middle of the night, to go see how can I help you out? It runs our lives. When you're studying, it's got to be off. It has to be off. And you'll say to me, what if it's an emergency? Back before we had phones, somehow, some way, the earth still rotated and revolved, and people figured out how to reach others during emergencies. So, that's a lot to unpack, but those are
very, very powerful. The analogy of the hands is unbelievable. I've never heard it before. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a brilliant idea to latch onto. It's like an envelope to put the idea into, of someone leading you and being led by someone, always being inspired and inspiring. Beautiful. We've only got 3 minutes left. Can I ask? Can I try and slip in one more question?
Sure.
Okay. So I actually got asked this by someone recently. And I thought I'd pose it to you as well, because I think you'll have perhaps a little bit more certainly a different perspective inside the work that you're in, and that is that he's somebody who felt that during this Corona crisis he really reconnected to what Kivi was talking about before in terms of his value system. He felt things changed a little bit. Things changed. I reconnected to my family. I reconnected to learning a little bit. I reconnected to all those things you were talking about before. And he said that now what's going to happen is things have started opening up here. Work started on this Shabbat this Shabbat we've actually got some of the schools reopening. So life is starting again. And he said, I'm scared. I'm scared that all that's going to happen is I'm going to get right back into the rat race, and I'm going to get right back into what I was doing before, and I'm going to lose track in terms of these kind of commitments or this desire to be different. Do you have any tips or I mean, it does tap into what you were talking about before, but any tips in terms of how he can really reestablish that work-life balance, reestablish those commitments that he made?
So you're asking about something that we're all struggling with. You'd probably be more effective if you ask me that question in 3 to 6 months, and I can share with you some of the things that have worked and that haven't worked, because I'm just guessing. I'll tell you my fears. I do a weekly video, and I did a video that I thought was very provocative, inspiring, right at the beginning of the crisis, wherein I mentioned this issue of what's going to happen, and I made 2 predictions. My predictions were A, things are going to go back to normal, and B, things are going to go back to normal, meaning that world's going to go back to normal and we're going to go back to normal. Exactly what you just said. All the gains we made, the inroads that we made in family relationships and in prayer and in study, and we're going to lose them. And it would be very powerful to pick something so that 10 years from now, when I have, for example, a couple of infant grandchildren, 10 years from now, they're going to be asking, like, what was coronavirus? How powerful it would be to be able to say, let me tell you, here's what it was. Oh, and then what happened? Well, things went back to normal. But for me, that's when I started, and you fill in the blanks, right? That's when I started studying. That's when I started lighting Shabbat candles. That's when I started keeping kosher, or trying to, and I kept it up, and that was your start. It's an unbelievable thing. And then I heard from a Rav something that was very scary. I figured I patted myself on the back, and I've done that. I've taken on some things, and I am determined I'm going to keep them. And this rabbi pointed out, he said, if that's what you're relying on, you're in danger. Why? Because even in the best case scenario, if you keep up your resolutions, you're the same person you were before. You just kept up some resolutions. Like, really what we need to work on is ourselves. That's what we've got to work on. And think about it. Imagine if you have somebody who is a fictional person. We'll just make them up and we'll give them all sorts of bad traits. Who's conceited. Is just everything. The world revolves around that person. And who's insensitive and nasty and brutish. And very difficult in all of his relationships. But he discovers his Judaism. And now he starts keeping Shabbat and eating kosher. Now that's great. Now what you have is somebody who is obnoxious and arrogant and conceited and brutal in his interpersonal relationships. But he's also keeping Shabbat and he's keeping kosher. Like, you got it. It's so critically important to work on that, to work on yourself. And that, obviously, in 3 minutes,
you can carry on. You're doing great. And I'm nervous of taking your time, not the other way around.
No. You don't have to worry about taking my time.
So keep going. Explain. It's great.
This is a holiday weekend, but I'm not going to mention which holiday because I don't want to insult anybody on the other side of the pond. So
we're fine. We don't. What happened? What happened this week?
No, I mean.
I'm joking. I know what happened.
There was a war a while back. So I think that's what's critical is to focus, and it's a lot. You're focusing on a lot. What I had recommended was try to take something on, one thing between you and God, prayer, textual study, etc., and one thing interpersonally with respect to your relationship between you and your fellow man. But I think it's more than that. I think that if that's all you do is you take, and it's great. I don't want to take anything away. If people have made resolutions and they keep them, fantastic. But I think the work has to really be internal work. I think that you've got to be saying to yourself, where is it? For me, just being around. You started off at the beginning. I'll give you an example with respect to lawyer hours. Now, thankfully, they're not as bad as they used to be. At the beginning, they were insane. My oldest son is 29 now, but my youngest are 10-year-old twins.
I cannot believe you have a 29-year-old son, Harry. How old are you?
I can't either. I'm 53. We just had, last week was our 30th wedding.
You do not look 53.
Yeah.
I'm not just being nice. You do not look 53.
Twin boys will keep you young looking. So thank God I am able to, to see them, more often than I did my older kids. But with coronavirus, it's unbelievable the time that I'm able to spend with them. And I'm not giving that up. I'm not. If that means rearranging my schedule, I've been saying to myself, why was I driving to Manhattan from northern New Jersey 5 times a week? I have been fully productive. I have a home office. I have a phone that actually, since it's through the cloud, looks like when I call somebody, it looks like I'm in the office. My caller ID comes up as if I'm in my firm. And now I can take, even if it's a 10-minute break, to go outside and shoot baskets with them. I'm home with them for dinner. So I'm determined to keep that up. And you can't, they're one of the worst phrases that was ever foisted upon children was quality time, because that let parents think that you could fool yourself and your children into, well, although I don't spend enough time, the time that I do spend is quality time. And I think that one thing, hopefully, I'm only speaking to myself. Obviously, people are in different situations. I know some people that can't wait to get out of the house. But for me, somebody who does not spend enough time because of my work hours, I'm determined to figure out a way to keep that going. And it's been extremely productive time. With those 2 little guys, we actually just finished. We made a siyum last Shabbos. We finished Mishnayos Seder Moed. We learned 4 Mishnayos a night. We made it through an entire Seder. We hope to be able to finish all 6 by the Bar Mitzvah. And you could say quality time all you want. You are not doing something like that. Spending time accomplishing, going through tractate after tractate of Mishnayos with kids, unless you spend the time to do it. It's extra time in my day. I have to prepare it because I'm teaching it, and I have to do it with them. And I think that there are certain things like that just by virtue of spending the time, hopefully will change you. I think part of being a better parent is figuring out ways to reprioritize, and you can become a better person that way. Part of being a more sensitive person is by stopping and taking stock and realizing, my wife really needs me, and I know that my buddies want to play golf, but it's 6 hours. Like I'm embarrassed to say it. My friends will hit me over the head with it, but I don't play as much golf as I used to for that reason, because it's tough to say goodbye to my wife and my kids for 6 hours. Softball I still play. It's an hour and a half, and I could take the little ones along to watch me. And I think that's what we all have to do. We're all in this together. Have to figure out ways. I would encourage the person who asked that question to really sit down and put down on paper the changes that he or she, I think you said it's a he, that he has made, and call himself on it. He may want to write himself a letter and have somebody mail it. And we do this on a trip that I lead to Israel once a year, where we have the guys each write themselves a very, very, don't hold anything back letter about their expectations from themselves when they go back based on the gains they've made. And we wait a good 3 months to mail it to them. And the guys say it's very, very powerful. It's powerful both ways. It's powerful if you're still doing it. Like, what a pat on the back. I can't believe I'm still doing it. And it's a wake up call. Like, look at this commitment that I made only 3 months ago. And I didn't live up to it. But yeah, you're raising a great point, and we're all in this together, and good luck to all of us.
Amazing. Thank you very, very, very much. I really, really appreciate that. Was an unbelievable message at the end there as well. We have a very interesting phrase in Seed that my boss, Rabbi Malcolm Herman, coined, which is that when he's written a book on parenting, and one of the things he said is that we have to move away from quality time into quantity time. You have to remember as well that kids also, we want our kids to have a relationship with us and share with us, but on our terms. Sometimes you just have to have exposure to them so that when they're ready to share with you and they're ready to connect to you, you're there for them. So you need quantity time. You need to give them options. You need to give them enough time to connect to you. It's really, really powerful. And I must say, it's very, very powerful hearing it come from someone like you as well, who is, you know, at the top of his trade and really has said, through this, I want to change my working life. I want to make those differences. I want to become a different type of person. I want to become a more sensitive person. I want to become a growing person. It's an inspiration for us to hear that as well. And I want one more thank you so much for taking the time out of your holiday weekend. We really, really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Okay, thank you so much, Harry.
You're very
I hope you have a nice holiday, even though it's the 4th of July and we lost that war. But now, we have an unbelievable program coming up on Monday. This tonight has been, for me, particularly inspirational. I've heard two incredible speakers, two incredible role models, really, who have shared their insights into this very difficult issue that we're all going to be dealing with and all are dealing with at the moment. On Monday, we have another incredible event. We have here Steve Rybak, who's a 22-year-old veteran in the Las Vegas Police Department. And his mission is to set the record straight about the police. And he's got a very interesting journey himself in terms of his interaction with the police department, in terms of issues that he's had in terms of his beard, in terms of wearing a yarmulke and things like that. And it's really an amazing opportunity to be exposed to someone who is in the thick of it out there in America, in terms of a police officer who's dealing with everything that he's dealing with. And he's on a mission to set the record straight. So I'm sure we'll have a lot of interesting insights from him. That is 8:30 p.m. on Monday, the 6th of July. That is this Monday coming up. Thank you very, very much for joining us. We hope everyone has gained from this. We hope everyone's been inspired, and hope to see you soon.